Welcome back to a new episode of the Chill Taste Podcast. I'm your host, Darian, and I know I've been gone for a while, but we're back. It is mock draft season. We are less than 20 days away from the NFL draft, the 2026 NFL draft. Many out there are saying that this is a dull class, it's not top heavy, not a lot of blue chip prospects, so on and so forth. Not a maybe a franchise quarterback in this draft. It doesn't matter to me. I love all draft season, and I think a lot of people out there that are watching this love it too. So here's my first round 2026 NFL mock draft, right? 1.0. I'll be doing this week leading up to the draft. I'll do 3 more of these drafts, and also I will have my final draft before draft night, probably like that Wednesday before. But anyways, I thank y'all so much for tapping in with me. Throughout my absence of posting YouTube videos, right, just doing shorts only, we have eclipsed 500 subs. So I appreciate y'all for tapping in. If you haven't already subbed to the podcast or the YouTube channel already, please make sure you do that. And also like, comment, share, and let someone know where to find a different looking mock draft during this time of the year. So, as you guys all know, I have no sources. I'm just a fan that talks the game. So, I'll be using the PFF mock simulator. I wanted to use Pro Football Network, but there was too many ads popping up and stuff like that, and I got tired of that. So, for my Jaguar people, I'll do the Pro Football Focus simulator. But as for the entirety of the mock first round, I'll do PFF. Also, PFF, they just let go a lot of people. So maybe I shouldn't even be supporting this platform anymore. But anyways, let's get right into it, man. This draft really in general, in my opinion, is really, really talented from a depth perspective, right? It's not a lot of heavy hitters like the 2027 class could possibly be, in my opinion, but there are some notable names, right? I think there are some franchise changers, some cornerstone pieces, and I'll get in that throughout the length of this show. But anyways, with the first overall pick, is it clear cut and dry right now? I still believe it is. Fernando Mendoza will be a Raider, in my opinion. I love the signing of Kirk Cousins for the Raiders, right? You bring in that bridge gap vet quarterback that can take over the games this year, learn the playbook, get this Raiders offense and running faster than what's expected to have from someone like Fernando. And he has a familiarity with Clint Kubiak. I think this is an opportunity where we've seen in years past where, the potential franchise quarterback can sit for a few games, a full season, or maybe even 2 years, right? I mean, we've seen it with Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, and Drake May, right? 3 quarterbacks most recently that had to sit some time, right? If it was for a few months, a full season, or maybe 2 or 3 years to really learn the NFL game, learn the landscape, learn how to be a pro's pro, most importantly, how to be a good quarterback, great quarterback, or even elite quarterback in the NFL. So I think Fernando is still the obvious choice at pick 1. They could trade down, but given Kirk Cousins' contract, I don't think this is going to be a situation where the Raiders are tying themselves into Kirk. He's going to be the vet guy coming in. Good little bridge gap for Fernando to learn from and also take over midway through the season or for sure in 2027. At pick 2, unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of this pick, right? And on my platform, I try not to bash teams as much, bash players, bash young players at that. I try not to. And I won't do it here, but I will give constructive criticism. I think Arvell Reese will be the pick at number 2 for the Jets. Not sure why. I don't think he is elite at anything. He is just good at a lot of things, right? He's good at rushing the passer when given the opportunity to on pass rushing downs. I think he is pretty solid stopping the run, and he's pretty solid in coverage. Nothing jumps out as his elite outside of his athletic ability, right? He is like 6'4", 225, I think maybe even 230, I'm sorry. Runs a 4.46, something of that not nature, right? Has a high vert, split, so on and so forth, 3-cone drill, all that and more, right? Bench pressing. He is an athletic freak, right? He's a sound football. I wouldn't even call him sound, in my opinion. He is a good football player that has potential to be very special at the next level. But is he worth pick number 2? I'm a firm believer in if you're an off-ball linebacker, right, you have to be spectacular to be a top, let alone 5 pick, but a 2 pick. We haven't seen an off-ball linebacker go this high in quite some time, right? If I have to think of one recently, maybe because I was going to maybe Devin Lloyd, if memory serves me correct, right? I mean, off-ball linebackers don't go that high. And granted, Micah Parsons was an off-ball linebacker coming out of out of Penn State, but he transitioned to a edge rusher, and he was profound at playing edge in college. Whereas Arvell, not that, in my opinion, right? I mean, maybe the Jets are banking on this and could possibly be their Micah Parsons, but I don't think so. I think Arvell serves best as a true off-ball linebacker playing with his hands, not in the dirt, rushing the passer on blitzing situations, but being able to just be out in space and be a chess piece for an opposing for defense and be a matchup nightmare for opposing offenses, though. But I'm not sure if the Jets can coach that out of him, right? Can they coach that from him? I think he'll best be suited somewhere like the Titans, the Commanders, the Saints, hell, maybe even the Chiefs. But he'll go top 2. And I don't know how he'll fare off, honestly. So, yeah, we'll see. At pick 3, this is a toss-up between David Bailey or a tackle right here. But I have the Cardinals going Francis Muyaga. Like I said, they could go edge rusher right here, especially with Josh Sweat possibly kind of wanting out of Arizona right now after even just signing a year ago. But I think LaFleur, I think coming in as a rookie head coach, I think it's best for him to secure this offensive line for whoever's going to play quarterback, rather if it's Gardner Minshew, Ty Simpson, Jacoby Brissett, whatever they do in this year's draft and then all offseason continuing out, they have to secure that offensive line, right? You already have your bookend left tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. You grab that right tackle in Francis, who can definitely play guard or tackle, and they'll be well off, in my opinion. They could go David Bailey right here, but also I think it's nothing wrong with just shoring up your offensive line with a really elite tackle, in my opinion. One of the blue chip prospects in this year's draft, and Francis Muyaga, a former 5-star pick, a 5-star recruit that went to Miami and played out of his mind. All right, pick 4. This is tough. It's tough right here, man, because I don't like seeing my rival team. I'm a Jaguars fan, by the way. I don't like seeing my rivals get better, but I think Ruben Bain Jr. should be the choice right here. Will he be the choice? I don't know. A lot of GMs are so worried about measurables and so on and so forth, but I think Ruben Bain Jr. will be the selection at this pick, simply because this is the best way Robert Saleh can shore up his defensive line. You already have Lane Johnson, who you traded for, a former guy of yours. You have John Franklin Myers. You signed him in for agency. You already have Jeffrey Simmons. Now you need that other bookend edge, and that'll be a great spot for Ruben Bain Jr. to take over and really be that anchor to complete that 4-man rush in Tennessee. They could arguably have one of the better defenses in line of football next year if you add Ruben Bain Jr. complete from head to toe, right? And they have good depth too. This could be a pick where the Titans go Carnell Tate. They could go Sony Styles with this pick. Hell, they could even go David Bailey or Jeremiah Love. But in my opinion, I think Ruben Bain Jr. is the best pound-for-pound edge in this class, regardless of his arm size, so on and so forth. You watch him play at Miami, he's a difference maker, and he had a hell of a playoff series this past year on the route for the Dolphins. The Hurricanes, unfortunately, losing a championship game, but he's a ball player, man. He's going to wreak havoc at the next level. He does a lot of great things. He's elite at his bend and whatnot, man. He's a very special player, and he's going to pose a lot of nightmare situations for AFC South offenses and also really any team in the NFL for many years to come. At pick 5, I think a lot of times where, some teams find themselves picking high in the draft and you're surprising, like, this team doesn't really have any serious weaknesses, right? So where do the Giants go? Because this is not typical for a top 5 picking team. Usually guys that are picking top 5, they have glaring weaknesses. The Giants don't, right? They can go receiver, linebacker, safety, corner, hell, running back. I think they will go running back. Now, this isn't a choice that everyone's in love with, but when I talk about blue chip prospects, difference makers for teams, guys that can come in and be a game wrecker year one, offensively or defensively, I think Jeremiah Love fits that billing. He is a fantastic running back. I think if you look at the last few running backs to come out in these few classes, in the last years or so, Jeremiah Love is one of the better ones, in my opinion. He's a special every down running back, run between the tackles, run on the outside, and also a hell of a receiving running back and threat as well. And this is something the Giants need, in my opinion, given the fact that Jackson Dart is entering year 2. His best weapons offensively are coming off pretty serious injuries, right? Malik Neighbors, granted, he's an all-potential pro receiver, possibly in the NFL if he can stay healthy and whatnot and have a great season, but He is coming off an ACL and MCL injury. You have Cam Scatterboo, who's coming off a serious ankle injury, and we already know with his athletic makeup, he may not be the same anymore. So you bring in someone like Jeremiah Love that can also spell or be the complement or be the pairing with Cam Scatterboo when he's back healthy, but also be that safety blanket, that safety net for Jackson Dart to rely on when things are going, a bit wrong in the offense, right? If Neighbors is taking a while to get back healthy, if you're having that chemistry issue with Isaiah Likely, right? And in my opinion, I think the Giants have one of the better offensive lines in football when healthy. And not to mention, John Harbaugh understands the benefits of having a serious run game dating back to his days at Baltimore. Not just recently with Derrick Henry, but you have guys like Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins when he was healthy, Ray Rice, so on and so forth. So even Justin Forsett, right? The Ravens have always had a reliable, game-changing running back in the backfield at some point in time. And I think Harbaugh will bring that type of influence, philosophy, and scheme. And just overall, hell, when the game's close, we're going to pound the ball down your throat, pause. And I think Jeremiah Love fits that mold for the Giants. And that'd be good for their offensive totality. At pick 6, this is where things can get a bit interesting, right? There's a lot of rumors that the Browns could possibly trade down to grab some more draft assets or just say, F it. We got to go get our guy. Right now, I have them going Carnell Tate. This could change in the coming weeks, but the Browns have done a pretty solid job of acquiring pieces on their offensive line this offseason, right? To really just scrap the whole entire front and then kind of rebuild it from their tackles on and on, right? They could grab a guy right here, rather than Spencer Fanu, Monroe Freeling, Caleb Luma, so on and so forth. But I think they go receiver right here and use that second first-round pick, the Jaguars pick, to grab an offensive line. And right here, you bring in a weapon for whoever quarterback one ends up being for him to rely on, right? Rather, if it's a Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, they need a wide receiver one. Now, granted, Carnell Tate has never been a wide receiver one at the collegiate level, right? He hasn't been a wide receiver one since his days back in Illinois in high school. I think he's from Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. I think he may be from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But, yeah, Carnell Tate hasn't been that guy in a while, right? Not saying he can't be that guy, but anytime you're drafting a wide receiver 2, not like a former wide receiver 2 or 3 for Ohio State when they had JSN with Garrett Wilson and Garrett Wilson with Chris Olave and so on and so forth. No, I'm talking about a true wide receiver 2, right? That has been Carnell Tate's game throughout his entire collegiate career. Hasn't even eclipsed 1,000 yards. I don't even think he eclipsed 900 yards. I could be wrong, but I'm quite sure his high was around like 780, 790, if I'm not mistaken. He has a lot of potential, but there's some red flags with that. However, he could definitely be that missing piece, that alpha wide receiver one the Browns have been searching for, pretty much since the days of Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., and if you want to go back even further than that, man, probably Josh Gordon. All right, if memory serves me best. So, yes, moving on. The Commanders. I think this is the spot where David Bailey gets drafted. The Commanders have done a really good job of retooling their defense. They had no choice, right? They had a lot of money to spend in free agency, and they have some glaring weaknesses on their defense. They had one of the worst defenses in football last year, and it was because they were too damn old, right? So you bring in Odafe Oweh, you bring in Leo Chanel, but you can never go wrong with adding more pass rush. I think that's exactly what they do. To pair on the opposite side of Odafe, you still have Deron Payne up front. You could go linebacker right here at Sonny Styles, but I think David Bailey is one of those edge rushers in this year's draft that is a arguably blue chip, can't miss prospect. And if he gets in the right system, Dan Quinn's system, by the way, that thrives off creating pressure and havoc, he could go crazy. So I think David Bailey at this pick, you have two bookend edge rushers, and this Commanders defense should be a lot better. Now, of course, I think later in the draft, they'll add on to their cornerback room and so on and so forth, grab a running back, grab some more, receiving help, so on and so forth. But right now, I think at pick 7, you go BPA, and I think the best player available at this time could be Caleb Downs, but you got to secure that front 4. So, that front 7. So go ahead and get David Bailey, in my opinion. All right, moving on to pick 8. I think this is where Sonny Styles will be drafted. Before, for the longest, I had the Saints going offense to continue to help out their quarterback, their new franchise quarterback, potentially in Tyler Shough. But I think right here, You just lost to Mario Davis to the Jets in free agency. I'm not sure who your backer is right now out there in New Orleans. You bring in someone like Sonny Styles that can really come in there and be the captain, the anchor, and arguably one of the better running linebackers in football in the next 3 to 4 years, right? I think it's a great spot for him. Now, he came on a bit later in his Ohio State career, always had a sound, production, but he really blossomed and blew up this past year. Had an amazing combine, so on and so forth, and he is an excellent ball player, in my opinion. I think going here at pick 8 is great value, and I don't know why the Saints will pass this up, especially if they're trying to continue to be better on defense for the upcoming season. So, yeah, I think a great spot for Sonny Styles with the Saints, and they have a need for backer. So, at pick 9, a lot of Chiefs fans have disagreed with me on the timeline, on my TikTok, so on and so forth. They say, oh, well, Brett Veach and, the Chiefs defensive backs coach, they can find a cornerback in any round. It doesn't have to be first round. That's not a lot of value for them, right? They can grab one off the street right now. Granted, they have shown the track record of grabbing a lot of corners and producing them, rather if it was first round picks, third round picks, second round picks, hell, even undrafted picks. Shout out to L'Jarius Sneed. But you don't want to pass up on arguably the best cornerback in this year's draft, hands down, right? And you want to make sure you should secure that outside, especially after losing an all-pro corner, Trent McDuffie. Granted, is that a smart move? Yeah, I think so, right? You get some more draft capital, you get cheaper, so you can be able to build upon this team going forward. But don't overthink it, right? There are some good corners in this draft, but I don't think any of them, from a pound-for-pound standpoint, from a size, productivity, intangibles, are better than Mansour Delane, in my opinion. You draft Mansour Delane at pick 9, you erase all the questions you have at CB1, because I think Noel Williams can definitely be your CB1. So you have 2 potential CB1s, without question, 2 potential CB2s, and then you can round out the later part of your cornerback room in the draft or more free agency pickups, right? They still got Christian Fulton. They just picked up Kaiir Elam. We'll see how he develops in that system. But, I think this is where you go corner right here. You could go safety, but I think right here you have to address a big need on this defense, the biggest need on this team, in my opinion, and it's a valuable need. I don't care what people say. Cornerback needs to be addressed, and I think they go Mansour Delane at pick 9. At pick 10, this is where I have Caleb Downs going. Great value. Another blue prospect, in my opinion. Arguably, if we're going positionless, or I'm saying positionless, but if we're going just strictly position, Caleb Downs may be the best player in this year's draft, right? There's questions about his knee, so on and so forth, but this is a guy that can come in and be a chess piece on defense, going from box safety to nickel to hell, even playing some linebacker, right? Even rushing, coming off a blitzer, like on some Derwin James type. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy is intangibly rich. Shout out to James Gladstone, but he is a phenomenal ball player, man. And the Bengals, although they don't have I don't think safety is at the top of the list amongst needs, but they need a serious defensive player to just say, hell, we have a guy that can really wreck an entire game plan. And I think Caleb Downs, after halfway through next season, and especially going into 2027, he can be that difference maker, that true difference maker for this Bengals defense to rely on, because they don't have any right now. You just lost Trey Henderson, right? Former guys you had in the past, they're all gone. I mean, what names do you have on this defense besides DJ Turner right now? And DJ Turner is a damn good corner, but you can avoid him. You wouldn't be able to avoid someone like Caleb Downs more times than not, in my opinion, if you have a great defensive coordinator and a great scheme. It's a bit unknown right now with Golden, but regardless, though, I think Caleb Downs should definitely be the pick, and he'll be, without question, the Bengals' best defensive player, not named DJ Turner, in my opinion, going into next season. All right, pick 11. This is where I have things getting a bit interesting. The Dolphins pretty much just scrapped away their entire team, from receivers, defensive players, so on and so forth. They have a lot of holes. And this could be where they go corner. This could be where they go receiver. There's a lot of talk about Jamal McCoy going somewhere around here. Now, me personally, I have a tough, very, very tough time on selecting a player at certain positions that haven't played football in a full season. You can get away with it at receiver. You can get away with it at running back. Nah, maybe not even running back. You can get away with it at receiver, maybe up front, the defensive line, right? But playing corner, quarterback, running back, positions that are very important on the field. Not saying not these other positions I named that you can come back from relatively, quickly aren't as important. But I think being able to a corner playing every single snap, running backwards, right? Coming off an ACL injury that kept you out the entire 2025 in college football season. And you've only played 2 years of college football and you're coming out as a junior. Keep that in mind. Now, granted, your tape in 2024 was amazing, but we don't know how you look anymore. So I'm not really a big believer on drafting McCoy at this pick. So I would go receiver if I'm the Dolphins. There's going to be some good corners in the back end of this draft, in my opinion, that will be there at pick 30 or pick 29, whenever they pick later in the first round. So right here, I would personally go Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson. Now, the biggest difference between these two is that, one is an elite potential receiver in this league, can definitely step in and be an alpha wide receiver one, whereas the other one is just consistently consistent, if that's a word to put together. Consistently consistent. Smaller, but a dog. However, for Jordan Tyson, although he could be your alpha one, he has a laundry list of injuries that I'm not sure you want to deal with at pick 11, especially, knowing his concerns and whatnot. So right here, I got Mekhi Lemon. Now, it's not the sexiest choice from a grand scheme of like, well, if you're pick 11, you should be this 6'2", 195 receiver that can jump out the gym, so on and so forth. I get all that, but Mekhi Lemon is a very intelligent, elite ball player. And I think at the next level, he could be an Amon-Ra St. Brown type receiver in the NFL. So I got the Dolphins going Mekhi Lemon at pick 11. Pick 12. I dropped the mock draft on my TikTok account, and I got a lot of flack for this. But every single season, we see some crazy stuff happen. And as you saw what I just did, I just went down to actual position and picked the player for the Cowboys to select Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. Keep in mind that the Cowboys have pretty much no linebacker on the roster right now outside of I don't know who their linebacker is. I can't even tell you right now. I have to pull it up on my phone. Who is their backer? I don't have my phone on me. Oh, yes, I do. Their backer is Darius Upshaw. I could be just talking out my ass right now. Pause. But let me see. Who's their backer right now? Oh, I don't need that. Let me see. Their linebackers right now, because I know Logan Wilson is retired. So I'm sorry, DeMarvion Overshown. I don't know why I said Darius Upshaw. I don't know where I got a name from. And Shamar James. Shamar James is a cool linebacker, former Gator. Came in there as a late round pick last year, really blossomed to something special. But that can be a guy that can really lean on going forward. But they need a guy. All right, Overshown is cool, like his game a lot, but they need a guy, a smacker, someone that can come up and be something they haven't had probably since Leighton Vander Esch. 2016 Cowboys, you know what I'm saying? Like, you bring in Anthony Hill Jr., I don't care if it's like an overdraft or a reach. No, not in my opinion. I think this guy, former 5-star recruit, played out of his mind in Texas. He should have been an All-American if he wasn't, right? He was a ball player. The only reason why he may have not made those teams because the Texas defense wasn't, pound for pound, the best consistent defense in the SEC or in the national football, in the college football level. I think they were when they damn near made it to the championship game. But I know last year they struggled a bit. He's a phenomenal player, man. He's fast, runs like a 4.58. I mean, he has great size, great ability, right, man? When he hits you, you see it, man. That guy's a difference maker. And also really sound in coverage too. I think he should be a pick right now, right here. I think he should be the second backer off the board. Well, true backer, right? Because they're going to try to put Arvell as an edge rusher at the next level. Don't agree with that. But true backer in this year's draft, he should be the first one off the board, in my opinion. But, Sonny Styles is going to get it off the athletic ability. But Anthony Hill Jr. is a ball player. It may sound like a reach, an overdraft. I don't care, man. This guy is really damn good. I hope he falls to pick 56. But I think on draft night, we're talking about so many players like, oh, he's going to fall, he's going to rise. I think this could be a riser. I really do. I think Anthony Hill Jr. could be a guy we look up at on draft night. His name gets called in the top 15. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. So I have Anthony Hill Jr. going to the Cowboys at pick 12. Boy, it's my first time drinking coconut water raw like this. I gotta get that taste, bro. I'm really big on taste. Anyways, Rams pick 13. Tough outlook right here. I don't want to reach. However, what are the people doing? They're going corner right here. They don't need a corner. You could go Spencer Fanu right here, but I want to get different. I want to be different. Let's get Kenyon Sadiq in there. The Rams are in win now mode, as you always can tell from the moves they made in free agency, how aggressive their GM Les Snead has openly been about, hey, we're trying to secure the best possible team for us to make this run. He's done it once before, bringing in guys like Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., guys extremely aggressive. I think he's trying to do it again. Could this first round pick be traded for A.J. Brown on draft night? Who the hell knows? Could it? Would it? Should it? Probably not, but you never know, man. You never know what Les Snead has up his sleeve. And honestly, this is not even their pick. Oh, no, sorry. This is Atlanta's pick, so they're going to keep this pick. So, I mean, they could trade it on draft night. Who knows? But, I mean, why not go with Kenyon Sadiq, a tight end who wasn't as productive as he should have been in college because of the offense, Dan Lanning runs in a sense, and I think he was a bit unhealthy last year. But when he was on the field, he was extremely productive. Extremely productive, right? I think he had north of like 600 yards this year, I want to say. This is an athletic freak, man. I mean, the combine was special. And I think in the right system, which is the Rams system, is perfect for tight ends, right? We all know how the system can be for tight ends. I think Kenyon can step in and be the Vernon Davis of this era of football if given the opportunity. And I think he will be given the opportunity, right? Because Devontae Adams is out there. Puka Nacua is going through his thing right now. Hopefully it gets better, but he'll be out there. Kyron Williams, you have Corum. I mean, Terrence Ferguson was cool last year, don't get me wrong. You have Colby Parkinson. You still have Tyler Higbee, I think I want to say. But, I mean, you don't. They don't got a Kenyon Sadiq. Tell you that. They don't have a Kenyon Sadiq, right? A guy that can go out there and run a 4.36 40, something crazy of that nature. I mean, that's a difference maker. He could take a slant to the crib. So, I mean, why not? Why not do this and just be different? Just be different for once and add on to the offensive galore you already have on disposal or display. All right, pick 14. Pick 14. I had the Ravens doing what they should be doing. Regardless of what the injuries may say, he may not go top 10. He may not go 11, 12, 13, but he definitely should be a top 15 pick. Hell, he may even fall in the 20s, but he shouldn't. Because I think Jordan Tyson's a damn good receiver. I think he's the best pound-for-pound receiver in this year's draft. But, of course, injuries will play a part. Injuries make you overthink. Injuries will have teams worried. But the Ravens, although they were worried about Matt Crosby's injury, quote-unquote, they shouldn't be worried at all about trying to put the best options around Lamar Jackson to succeed. You can't stop trying to fill in this wide receiver outside role with guys that are a bit, past their prime. DeAndre Hopkins was cool. Not it. You know what I'm saying? Odell Beckham was cool. Not it. You have to go out there and get a young guy that can be a great complement to Zay Flowers, who I do believe is a really solid player, but he is no alpha one in my opinion. You need a big 6'1", 6'2" receiver that can go out there and jump out the gym and just be that guy for you. You watch Jordan Tyson's tape. He is a dog. Injuries aside, he is a dog. He really reminds me of a Justin Jefferson type. He is a guy that can break you down in a route combination, stretch the field on the deep ball, right? A possession type, a dunk man. I mean, he is everything you want in a receiver one, and I think he'll be an excellent pick for the Ravens right here. The Ravens could go offensive line right here. They could go guard. I mean, they could go different directions. But I think if Jordan Tyson's there, you cannot pass up on him. You can't. You can't because I mean you're banking on the Zachariah Branches being there later, right? I mean, maybe Denzel Boston falls to the second, but he may go high second. So you just can't do stuff like that when you have the opportunity to you know what I'm saying, really bolster your room and really help out your quarterback who has the need for wide receiver one help. I mean, I know Zay Flowers is there, don't get me wrong, but come on now, Tyson, he could step in year 2 and be ahead of Zay Flowers, if we're being honest. Pick 15. I like this pickup right here because I think he's one of the more underrated players in this year's draft. Reminds me of a young Carlos Dunlap, Keldrick Folk. And for those who don't know about Carlos Dunlap, look it up. Really, really, I would say great edge rusher in the NFL that didn't get a lot of credit, in my opinion. I said credit. Didn't get a lot of credit, in my opinion, because of maybe the team he played for. He played for the Bengals, and the Bengals run when they had Andy Dalton, AJ Green, and Geno Atkins and whatnot. But, Carlos Dunlap was a difference maker up front, right? Pro Bowler, 8-10 sack guy, former Florida Gator as well. I mean, Keldrick Folk, in my opinion, really reminds me of that. 6'5", long wingspan, great bend, really sound against the run, and he's going to improve as time goes on as an edge rusher from a passing standpoint. And I think he'll be a great pickup for the Buccaneers right now. They have a need for edge rusher as well. And I think, he'll be a big difference maker in Todd Bowles' defense next year because they need something up front because last year's Buccaneers defense was terrible, right? They were just too inconsistent. And I think you bring in an edge rusher like Folk, it can slow down opposing offenses, especially with the guys they have on defense. And they could go backer right here, maybe C.J. Allen, given the fact that Levante David did retire. But, this linebacking class is so deep, I think they'll address that later, in my opinion. So, pick 16, the Jets. Now, my mock draft, I had the Jets going receiver right here, Denzel Boston, and I got ridiculed and shamed for it. Maybe I won't go that right here. They could go edge right here. You have Akeem Mazador, you have Cassius Howe, you have T.J. Parker. Zion Young's been getting a lot of love, right? They have a need for edge rusher in the departure of Jermaine Johnson, right? They just have Will McDonald right now out there. I don't want to see Ty Simpson drafted right here. I really don't. I don't think he should. He'll be there in the second round. Get him later, in my opinion. It just could be a Cassius Howe, T.J. Parker type run right here, Akeem Mazador. But I think I'm gonna go with my. It could be a Jamal McCoy, right? But they made some solid moves in free agency to bring in some, complimentary cornerbacks that you may not have to go on in round 1. I think, hell, why not? Why not? If you're going to take a risk on drafting Arvell Reese, why not take a risk on drafting Denzel Boston? Denzel Boston's a matchup nightmare if all things go correct. 6'4", about 220, 215, 220, can jump out the gym. Good 40 time. Contested ball artist. Catch radius out of this world. Good route runner. I mean, you already have your guy in Garrett Wilson. You can afford to take a risk and a swing on a wide receiver 2 that can turn into, George Pickens. Who knows, right? Who knows? Or maybe Chase Claypool if he had, consistency around him from hey, you need to start biting off more than you can chew standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Because Chase Claypool's rookie year was a dog. Juju Smith-Schuster was a dog his rookie year. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he can be that guy for the Jets and they can just continue to, prolong with him. Or Michael Pittman, right? I mean, I think Denzel Boston has a lot of opportunity to be special in this league. And like I said, I mean, at 6'4", he's 209. I mean, he's a really smooth receiver to be that size, man. And I think he'll be a great pickup for the Jets. I'm sorry. I think he'll be a great pickup. Could it be an overdraft? It happens in the NFL draft, right? Teams overdraft, teams reach. But I said Jets already reached that pick 2. Why not at pick 2 first round? You know what I'm saying? Why not? Just get it over with. Just get Denzel Boston. You have a need for receiver. And I mean, Omar Cooper is cool. Casey Concepcion is cool. But I think if you're banking on potential with size and the ability what he could translate to the league, you got to go to 6'4" dunk man that can take the top off a defense as well. So I think that'd be a great pickup for the Jets. That's my honest opinion. Pick 17. The Lions. Yeah, this is going to be a tackle pickup, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a tackle pickup without question, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be Caleb Lumu, who's been rising up the board. Could be Spencer Fanu, but I think it'll be Caleb Lumu. Um, you know, the Lions have already said that Penei Sewell will be going to the left tackle spot, supposedly. So they have a need for right tackle. They lost a lot of pieces, man. Taylor Decker, so on and so forth. They have a lot of holes on this offensive line. You bring in a tackle to share up the both ends, bookends, so on and so forth. And I think that's something they need, especially with things kind of shifting. New offensive coordinator, new running scheme, so on and so forth. You got to bring in a tackle to help support that scheme. And I think Caleb Lumu will be pretty damn good. All right, pick 18. The interim Vikings GM, forgot his name. He's been in the Vikings organization for a long time now. I want to say since the 90s. He is the running GM for the draft and before the season begins. And he spoke about at the head coaches owners meeting that, times in the draft when teams are going for need, they sometimes miss on picks, miss on players because they're not going BPA at times when they need to go BPA instead of need. And I think at this time in the draft, you could argue that Dylan Diamond is the best player on the board, arguably the best safety in this year's class at pick 18. And the Vikings have a need for safety, not a desperate need, but if you can bring him in on their defense, given his sideline to sideline playmaking ability, his fast coverage speed, the ground he can make up in the back end, being a sound tackler, so on and so forth, he will be an excellent pickup for Brian Flores' defense, in my opinion. I think this should be a pick they should really consider. I think he's BPA at this point in the draft. He's a hell of a player. Transferred over from Purdue to Oregon. He was a damn good player at Purdue when the Oregon got even better. So, yeah, I think Dylan Diamond will be a great pickup for the Vikings at pick 18. Pick 19. This is where another team can go BPA. And he may not be the best player on the board at the time, right? But it's also a need. And he's a damn good player. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, another safety out of Toledo. Maybe, depending on who you're talking to, the second best safety in this year's class, too, depending on who you're talking to. I think he's definitely in that conversation for sure. Thumper, big guy, too. 6'3", 6'4", with cleats. Great size, rangy, long, lengthy, paws, so on and so forth, to list the athletic makeup of someone like Emmanuel. But he's a damn good player. And the Panthers can really solidify their defense when bringing in someone like Emmanuel, because Nick Scott's their safety right now. And we all know about Nick Scott if you're a Panthers fan. I'm not even a Panthers fan, but I'll be on Panthers Twitter enough to know that Nick Scott's a liability in that back end. You bring in Emmanuel to pair with Trayvon Moehrig, you have J.C. Horn, Mike Jack, Devin Lloyd. Who else they got up front? Jalen Phillips, it is signed a huge contract. Derek Brown. It could go to tackle with this pick, but I don't think they will. I mean, you still got guys like Trenton Wooten last year that brought up from the Chiefs. Princely, Emmanuelan, Nick Scourton coming back from injury. I mean, this defense can really turn it up a notch if you just bring in an extra piece, whether it's up front the defensive line or in that back end in that safety room. And I think if you bring in Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, that defense really becomes more complete, in my opinion. All right. Cowboys, second first-round pick. I have them going corner right here. I think it'll be Avion Terrell, only because I think Avion, he could definitely go top 15, maybe even top 12, but I think he will fall because he's been having these lingering hamstring issues, and he hasn't been able to participate in, these drills in the offseason because it's been, hampering him. I think he ran his 40 at his pro day, and he couldn't even run it because his hamstring pulled on him. Now, one thing about hamstrings, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I'm pretty sure if you can tear your hamstring, you can have surgery on it without question. But if you're partially tearing it, or if you just keep pulling it, that is one injury that you just can't shake off. It takes a while for it to shake off, right? And he could be ready to come minicamp. He may be ready to come training camp, right? But that's something that has to be taken care of, conditioned, right? Because if you have a bad hamstring, that can lead to a bad groin, so on and so forth, right? So you don't ever want to have those leg issues. And maybe that warrants a couple of teams saying, hey, let's fall back a little bit, right? We don't want him. We don't got him as high on our board because he's already a bit undersized. Damn good player, though. Already undersized. So let's go somewhere else. But I think the Cowboys should look at it and say, hey, we already got Anthony Hill Jr. May have reached with that. But we all know if he does fall, Avion Terrell will be looked at as not a reach because he can argue that he's the second best corner in this year's class. So I think Avion Terrell at pick 20 will be an excellent value pickup for the Cowboys. And they have a need for cornerback, man. Deron Bland, his agent last year, with all due respect, put the Shiesty mask on, man, went in there and pulled Shiesty and Gucci Man situation. You know what I'm saying? So, Jerry Jones, I don't know why you did that. A bit out of your character. But hey, everybody gets paid in this league if you produce at some point, right? So, with all due respect, you know what I'm saying? And maybe it was the defensive coordinator last year. I don't think Matt Eberflus is a good DC anymore. I think he needs to be served the best as a position coach. But yeah, I mean, they brought in the Eagles, cornerback, DB position coach last year to be the new DC, which is a very interesting move by Jerry Jones, right? Going to a rival to pick their scheme from the Vic Fangio tree. So, they still pride themselves on backer play and corner. So we'll see. All right, pick 21. This is where the Steelers could go guard, right? They could go quarterback. I don't think Ty Simpson should be the pick right here. You got to go Vega Leoani. I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. Penn State, arguably the best offensive lineman in this year's class, not named Francis Mwaga, in my opinion. He's going to be a damn good player, future Pro Bowler, future All-Pro, potentially. There's so much hype on his name. There's so much hype on this player that they're saying that he could be the best guard in the draft since Quentin Nelson. And Quentin Nelson went top 10, if I'm not mistaken. So, everyone's saying that Loani could go, should go top 15, top 10, but he won't, because we all know how the NFL and GMs and scouts and the draft board view guards. But, this would be a great pickup for the Steelers, and also secure an offensive line that is really getting better, right? Especially with their youth. Broderick Jones took a big step last year. Zach Frazier was their best alignment, arguably. And then you have Talisi Fuanu, right? Their right tackle last year, after missing the bulk of his rookie season, came back next year, following season, and played pretty damn well. So you bring in Loani, whoever the quarterback is next year, they'll have some protection up front. And also the running game should be a lot better too, especially with the beef they have up front as well. All right, pick number 22. I have the Chargers going defensive lineman, D-tackle, Caden McDonald. The Chargers have a need for a interior guy up front. They have Poona Ford. I'm not sure who else they have up front up there in LA, but they gotta beef things up front, right? And I think Caden McDonald, you can make the case that he's the best D-tackle in this year's class. He's a menace. He's a havoc. He is a great player for Ohio State. And, a lot of these Ohio State players are phenomenal for the defense last year. There's a lot of those players on Ohio State's defense will get drafted in this year's class, right? Even heavy in the second round too. Matt Patricia has some dogs out there. So, I think Caden McDonald's a really good player, and I think he'll be an excellent piece for this Chargers defense. Pick 23. I was talking to my boy about this in a group chat recently about how, this Eagles defense can fall off next year, but we started highlighting, okay, they still got some really good players. You got Mitchell, of course. They have Cooper. They brought in Tariq Woolen. They have Andrew McCouble. He would hope to take a bigger step in year two. They brought in Marcus Epps, right? Maybe the draft replacement later in the draft for a safety spot. They have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, and Moro. You know what I'm saying? But they need another edge rusher. They could trade it for, a proven player. You know what I'm saying? And we all know A.J. Brown is out the door. He has 1 foot out the door trying to find a trade partner. And it could happen on draft night, right? But maybe not because of the money situation. But with all that being said, I think the Eagles should definitely go edge right here. They could go receiver, but I wouldn't take a risk because receivers in the later part of the draft could be better suited for them. I think edge rusher is key. You could go Akeem Massador, right? They could. I think I actually had them going Akeem Massador. Let me undo this pick. I'm sorry. I have them going Akeem Massador. I put DJ Parker by accident, but Akeem Massador, a guy that's coming in proven, had 12 and a half sacks for the Dolphins. I keep saying the Dolphins. For the Canes last year, for the Hurricanes last year on their route for an almost championship. Fantastic player, played opposite of Ruben Ban Jr., and he played big time for that Canes defense last year. He's a bit older, but it doesn't matter the age, in my opinion, because he can come in and be an instant impact guy, like a guy that can lean on in year one and have maybe 7-8 sacks. You never know, right? So I think Akeem Massador would be excellent for this Eagles defensive line, and I'd be a smart pickup from Howie Roseman, in my opinion, to really improve their edge rush group. All right, this is where I have tackle off the board for the Browns, Caden Proctor. Previously I said that they could go tackle at pick 6. They could trade down from pick 6, or they could just end up with Cardinal Tate, which is where I think they will go. But they still have a need for tackle. You get Caden Proctor, a young guy, 20 years old, relatively really young, has a lot of room to grow, showed potential at Alabama, could never stack consistency enough that could be because Caden Proctor arguably at one point was viewed as the top 5 pick. He'll still be a first round pick in my opinion, but you give him a new program, with who's the head coach right now? His name is Todd Monken. Todd Monken development from an offensive line standpoint was really notable with the Ravens. So I think that would carry over for the Browns, and I think it'd be a damn good pickup for the Browns. A young guy that can definitely develop and turn into something special by the end of the rookie deal. All right, pick 25, Peter Woods. Peter Woods is a damn good player, in my opinion. He's the guy that's going to fall in the draft, in my opinion, unfortunately, because of his size and what transpired last year for this Clemson defense. Don't put any mind into it. The Clemson defense was bad last year because they were underwhelming, right? They had a lot of hype coming into the year, but they will still have players go first round. Peter Woods will be one of them, right? Alongside Avion Terrell and also, in my opinion, T. Parker. I think Peter Woods is a damn good defensive tackle, man. Phenomenal player, can stop the run, push the pocket, rush the passer, so on and so forth, man. He is an excellent player, and he should be a first-round pick, in my opinion. Will he be? I'm not sure, but I think this could be a time where teams just hear so much chatter about, this player's going to fall, so on and so forth. But on draft night, he'll go where he needs to be. And this is great value for the Bears, in my opinion, because they have a need for defensive linemen. And also last year, they had a very tough time getting off the field, getting stops when they needed to. And I think Peter Woods can help that because Gervon Dexter is pretty solid, but he needs a running mate, and I think Peter can definitely be his guy. All right, the second guy I have, or the third guy I have going from Clemson, TJ Parker. The Bills have a need for edge rush, man. Gregory Rousseau is a great player, but he can't do it at home. Joey Bosa, the idea was nice, but he wasn't healthy enough last year. When he played, he was solid, but it's just not going to happen in the following season. And they just got rid of AJ Espinoza from letting him go from a free agency standpoint. They have for edge rusher, and also Ed Oliver. The questions about him right now: is he going to be able to come back healthy? Is he going to be able to be consistent next year? Do they keep him? So on and so forth. They could go D-tackle with his pick. They could go Caleb Banks, Christian Miller, maybe. But I think edge should be a priority right here. You bring in TJ Parker to play that bookend edge opposite of Gregory Rousseau, and that'd be a great tandem for many years to come, in my opinion. Pick 27, Spencer Fanu. The Niners, they have some issues up front with their offensive line. They have some needs from an offensive playmaking standpoint, and they have some needs on defense too, from a corner and safety standpoint. However, I think with the uncertainty of Trent Williams, you don't want to deal with that, man. You bring in someone that you can have just in case Trent doesn't decide to come back or he forces his way out. You have a problem solver. Spencer Fanu is going to be really good at the next level. He may fall from draft fatigue, but I think Spencer's going to be good, and he'll be a great potential franchise tackle for the Niners for many years to come. Pick 28. I have another guard going first round. Christian Chase Basantis out of Texas A&M. It could have been the Oregon guard as well, but I think the Texans need to continue to really invest in Stroud. He hasn't been paid yet. He could be paid here soon, or they pick up the fifth-year option and say, hey, you go out here and prove it, but we're also going to do a better job of surrounding you with talent. They could go, defensive line right here to make that side of the football even more better, but no. You have to say, hey, we'll address that later. We have to improve offensively for Stroud. Not only Stroud, but for this running game to be better next year as well, because they had David Montgomery. They have the guy last year, Woody Marks, who played pretty solid in sparing of Nick Chubb and the absence of Joe Mixon. So if you already have someone like David Montgomery, that tells me right there, you're going to run the ball more often next year. So that means you should aid to that offensive line. Bring in someone like Chase Basantis. That was damn good for Texas A&M Aggie offense last year. All right. Another offensive lineman going right here. Monroe Freeling. The Chiefs' offensive line isn't solidified. I think Josh Simmons is a damn good player, but last year with the, off the field, unfortunate with his family he had going on, being in and out of the lineup, I think he'll be a lot more put together in year two. Hopefully everything's taken care of from a family standpoint. But he's a damn good player, man. He showed you he can be a franchise left tackle for this Chiefs franchise. But they need to secure the other side, right? Because they have some issues there. You know, I'm not sure the right tackle is right now, but it may be a veteran or a journeyman, so on and so forth. But you bring in Monroe Freeling to secure that right side because Patrick Mahomes may not be the same shiftiness, evasive quarterback he once was before. And last year he's running for his life at times because one, the running attack wasn't there, and two, they had a banged up, inconsistent offensive line. Well, you brought in K9 to supply that running attack. Now you bring in a tackle to bolster that offensive line that gives Patrick Mahomes 10 more years to play, or at least 8 more years to play at a very high level. So I got the Chiefs going Monroe Freeling at pick 29. Pick 30. This is where, in my opinion, Jermon McCoy should be drafted. Call me crazy. You know, I may be overthinking this, but it is okay for certain players to fall because of the uncertainty you have with their injury history. The guy hasn't played cornerback in a full college NFL season. That is so hard for me to say, okay, yeah, boom, make him a top 12 pick. I don't see it, but at pick 30, absolutely, because it's damn near a second round pick. Excellent value. And if you pair up Jermon McCoy and you have someone like Mekhi Lemon, those are two, maybe not blue chip prospects, but more so cornerstone pieces that you can build around going forward offensively and also on defense. At pick 31, this may not even be a selection for the Patriots on draft night, given the surrounding rumors we've been hearing about what they could possibly do about A.J. Brown, would they trade from on draft night, would they trade from in June, so on and so forth. This may not even be where the Patriots end up picking on draft night, first round. But if they do, I think it should be C.J. Allen. You know, Robert Spleeland was a big pickup for the Patriots last year, but he was hurt, you know what I'm saying, during a huge chunk of the schedule. Whereas you bring in someone like C.J. Allen, younger player, explosive, you know, may not be the Roquan Smiths we've seen from Georgia in years past, but he's a damn good IQ linebacker, can play sideline to sideline, great at, you know, tackling, sound at coverage as well. This would be a great pickup for him. And this could possibly be where Anthony Hill Jr. ends up being drafted too. Like I said, I may have reached on that pick 12, but I think a selection right here for CJ Allen to be really special for this Patriots defense if they continue to hold this pick. And at pick 32, I have the Seahawks going Brandon Seiss. You know, Brandon Seiss, one thing about this, right? I think anytime you have a highly touted South Carolina corner coming off the board, you make a snag for him, right? J.C. Horn, Stephon Gilmore, so on and so forth. Not saying that Brandon Seiss will be those guys, but he's a damn good player. And, you know, the Seahawks struck gold last year, and why everyone was overthinking Nick Emmanwori, they grabbed him in the first round last year. So I think they double back for USCE corner, defensive back, and I think Brandon Seiss will be an excellent pickup for this Seahawks defense, especially in wake of them losing Tariq Woolen to the Eagles. But yes, that is my first round mock for the 2026 NFL draft. Like I said, I'll make another one next week, more in depth, more concise, less predictability, trying to be more accurate as possible. But yeah, this is my overall feel for the draft being less than 20 days away. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you didn't, please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on the 2026 first round NFL draft. What is your mock? Let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, I'll be back next Monday for Mock Draft Monday. Until next time, y'all be safe. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your work week. And please make sure you tap in for the next episode. Until then, that is a wrap.